Okay, class, I was experiencing some technical difficulties. Hopefully they're all fixed and we're ready to go. So number 7, let's give this a try. Number 7, I've showed you how to do it on your calculator and also by hand. So if you take a look, I've typed them both into my calculator here. Just again, be really careful with those negatives and the subtraction signs, okay? So now I'm going to go ahead and hit graph, and you can see the intersection point, or we can also go to calculate, and then we just have to go through those questions again, and it'll give us our intersection point, okay? Now, if you don't like that, remember, back in chapter 3, we also learned how to split this into 2 separate problems. So we can drop the absolute value, and we can drop the absolute value, but we have to turn this other side the opposite. So because it was a negative, I have to turn it positive, and so on, okay? Now, when we solve this, if you notice, our variables on this one are going to drop. So we get 1 is equal to 9, which makes no sense, so we're going to go ahead and ignore that solution. Now, over here, when we move the x over, it becomes a 2x. So notice how we only have the one solution in this problem, okay? So this is where we're coming up with our x to be -5, and then we just plug it back in. And before my video quit here, I was trying to explain to you, how do we know when there's one solution versus 2? If you remember, we're looking at the slope. So if you notice how I highlighted the slope, the negative here is going to get taken away by the absolute value. So we just want to look at that these are both 1x's. If they're the same, that means we're only going to have one intersection, because what it means is these lines technically are running parallel. It's just our vertex has been shifted. Now if we look at number 8, notice how we have a 2 and then we have basically an x. That means this one's going to be a little bit steeper. So because this is steeper, it's going to hit in 2 different places. Now this can be the really tricky one that you have to kind of do in your calculator. This is the one where we have to do that calculate button twice, but you have to really watch where you type it in at. So I'm going to go absolute value, and now I got to type in my 2 functions. Okay, so I've got them typed in. And I'm going to tell it to hit graph, and again, I might be able to see it, but that one intersection is looking like it's going way off my screen. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the calculate intersection, and then we're going to see which one it gives us first. Notice it's giving the close one. Now, if it gives the close one, I believe if we just use our, whoops, we have to go calculate again. Now, if we move our little blinking star guy up to that other line, and now if we go up as far as we possibly can, so just kind of get it up there pretty far, then go through their questions. Notice it'll give you the second intersection, okay? Oh, it's giving me the first one still. So we might have to zoom out. Let's go zoom out once here and see if it gives it, if we can see it better. Okay, so now we can see the second one. So now let's go to calculate, and let's move our little blinking star guy up by it, and then we'll go ahead and answer their questions. And now we've got the far away one, okay? So we talked about that zoom key. So sometimes you might have to do zoom out, and now once your screen is really far out, to get it back to what we normally like, we go zoom, and then we're going to do standard. So go zoom 6, and then notice you'll go back to the beginning, okay? So here, I'll try that one more time. So we're going to go calculate number 5, and we're going to go through their questions, and it's going to give us the one we can see. So it's giving us the 1, 6. Now we know there's another one out there. So let's go zoom, and we're going to go to out, and we have to hit enter, and then it'll regraph it for us. Now what we want to do is we want to go calculate intersection, but before we go through their questions, we have to move the little blinking star guy all the way up here. So we just have to use our little arrow keys, and see how I'm just kind of moving him up there. And he doesn't have to be perfect. Notice mine's a little bit far. I can move him down a little. He just needs to be in this area, okay? Then we go through the questions. And then now it'll give us our further intersection point. And then when you want to go back, go zoom standard, and it'll give you your graph back. But again, if you don't like that, kind of like I just did on number 7, with number 8, we can also split these into 2 separate problems. So I won't work it all out here for you, but I'll just kind of show you. There's the 1 split. Now when I do the other side, I have to make the x negative and the 5 negative. That will give me my 2 different x values. So that'll give me the 13 and the 1. Okay, and then you just plug those back in. So if you notice 13 plus 5, that's how you got 18. And then when you get the 1, notice 1 plus 5 gets you the 6. Plug it into whichever side you want. I just recommend the easier side. Okay? All right, number 9. We're almost done here. Number 9. Number 9. To graph this, you can either put this in y equals, or you can do your cover-up method. So notice if I cover this up, that's 3 divided by negative 9. That's a really bad intercept. That's negative 1/3. That's going to be really small to graph. So I think I'm going to start with my y-intercept. 3 divided by 3 is just plain old 1. Now I could do my slope. So my slope is opposite x over y, which is just 3. So if I go up 3 over 1, up 3 over 1, okay, then I can connect it, and it's got a bar underneath, so it's going to be a solid line. Then remember, we check the symbol. Because this is a plus, it will not flip that sign, so it's going to be greater than. Now, if you do not like that, that's totally fine. Take this inequality, go over here, and go ahead and solve it for y. So I'm just recopying it. Okay, so if I move the 9x over, then if I divide by 3, now because I'm dividing by a positive, it won't reverse my sign. And if you notice, that's exactly what I got before. I got the 1 from my cover-up method, and I got the 3 from doing my shortcut, opposite x over y. So it's totally up to you. I'm not trying to persuade you one way or the other. You just have to be able to get the graph. These are the only 2 types of graph you have to do on the test tomorrow. Okay? Okay, number 10, real quick. Cover-up method is not bad on this one. X would be 6. Hopefully I got the right dot there. It was kind of hard for me to see. And then 6 divided by 3. Now, notice this does not have a bar underneath, so this is going to be dashed. And I don't have a ruler handy, so I'm just going to have to freehand this. Hopefully it doesn't look too bad. Okay? Now, the symbol is positive, so it's not going to reverse my sign. So it's going to be greater than. Remember, you can solve this for y. Okay? All right. This one, the 7 is not too bad. But now my x-intercept would be horrible. That would be 7 divided by 2, so that would be 3.5. I could do it, it's just going to be really small. So what I'm thinking is from this, why don't I just do my slope? So it would be opposite x over y. So I just need to go down 2 over 1. Down 2 over 1. And this has the bar, so I'm going to make it a solid line. And because this is a plus, it will not flip my sign. Only if this was a subtraction would it reverse my sign. So it's going to be less than, which is this way. That means their intersection is this triangle area right here. So on tomorrow's test, I really want to make sure you guys are darkening in that solution area, okay? So hopefully this has just given you some additional problems to practice. You may have fast-forwarded this video at different points depending on how the class feels. But now I want you to go ahead and pass out the larger packet, and I want you to be working on that for the rest of the hour, okay? Please remember there is also the book review as well, okay? So if you get done with the packet and you still feel like you need additional problems, if you turn towards the end of the book here, starting on page 282, they have a review, okay? So you can see the chapter review where they go through an example and then they give you more practice. Then, that goes for a couple pages here. Then on page 285, they have the chapter test. Notice that's much shorter, and you notice you've got some story problems in here, okay? I definitely don't think I would worry about this one. Describe the advantages and disadvantages. I wouldn't worry about that because I don't care what method you pick. But notice you've got like a little chart here where you've got to pull the numbers, and then you've got to write your inequalities. Notice down here you've got another story problem. Even in the review over here, I believe on page 282, there's another story problem. So there's lots of examples, lots of places to get some extra problems to work on in preparation for this test, okay? But we did go over the general information on the test for tomorrow, okay? So you've got 21 questions, only graphing inequalities, 4 story problems, but most of your problems, the majority of the problems, look like this set right here, okay? All right, remember, see Mrs. Busker, see Mr. Goodman if you have questions, and I will be back on Friday.